Welcome, welcome, welcome back to AG University Podcast. Today, we are in for a treat, you guys. Leo Max is joining us, and he's been on the show once before. You guys all wrote in and said he had the most sexy voice, and he does have a beautiful voice. I remember everyone's like, what a great voice. And we're just going to dive deep on all of the things, and I just want to welcome you to the show. Leo, tell us everything, your whole story. Go.
Thank you for having me back. First, I want to say I was just listening to your episode about being magnetic is really about being the most emotionally regulated person in the room. And I cannot agree more. That was a 10 out of 10 hot take. So I wanted to start there. I was laughing because you were talking about the time where you were balding.
Oh,
I was like heaving over, getting ready getting ready for the day, listening to that, just picturing that for you. And then I come here and see these beautiful locks.
isn't that crazy? I mean, my hair, they
That's
do
growth.
say when you're happy, when you're healthy, all of the things, the hair really responds and she's back. I was also
Say
just
that to my
telling
balding dad.
I'm like, listen,
So my dad's
Mr. Max.
depressed.
I'm like, we could really turn this around, okay? But every time I see your face, and I was just telling Austin, my husband, this, I'm like, I feel like we could be related. And I don't mean this in a way
For
of like
sure.
we're soul sisters. Like, genuinely, you look like some of my family
I know,
members.
even like the wavy, curly, blonde hair. I mean, it's not that common.
We have the exact same kind of color, too.
I
Like my
know.
natural, I have a few highlights in, but like your natural
Yeah,
color is like my color. Anyways, I don't know how we have gotten
the lion's mane.
it is. Somehow we are related. I don't know. We might be family members.
There's a weave intertwining there somewhere.
There is a weave. Well,
There's a
you
web.
have you've been in my so everyone has been following along with the show. I've had virtually zero guests on this kind of half second semester. And I've just been, yapping away, having tons to yap about. But every time I would get on social media, which honestly has gotten smaller and smaller and smaller these days, you're the first video that pops up.
Yeah.
And you've just been in my orbit. And I was like, I got to have him on the show. And this is the book that you told me to
Oh
get,
my gosh. Yes, I
which
did.
for anybody catching me on YouTube, I'm holding up a book and it says Loving What Is by Byron Katie. And when Leo came on the show last, he recommended this book to me. And what's funny is I got the book and then we were going through all those moves. So I kept boxing up all of my books, all of my books. And I've just now, I feel like, gotten into a place where I've been reading a ton again. And I pulled this book out and I was like, oh my gosh, this was Leo's Bible. So
Truly.
I just started reading it. And it's funny, you know how books always just magically find you at the time when
Hmm.
you are ready to hear them or ready to receive the information.
Yeah.
And the kind of channeled message or collective reading I did last week from the Akashic Records was we're all going through this initiation, which is, we've learned all the things. Are we actually gonna, say it with our chest, stand on business, stand
Yeah.
tall? Are we gonna do it? And a
Oh yeah.
lot of the themes that have been kind of playing out around me is taking ownership or blatant examples where people refuse to take ownership. They are like, this is
Mm.
not my fault. This is someone else's fault. Point, 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 blame, 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 which we all have done. I could be guilty. I would definitely
Yeah.
was raised with some family members who love to point and blame. I'm not gonna point them out. I'm not gonna call them out, but I definitely am like, this is interesting. I'm seeing all these patterns and I've just gotten real still to observe them. So, anyways, I thought, who better to come on than the king, the master himself to talk about this book a little bit and the inquiry. And if you kind
Hmm.
of want to just also tell us what you've been up to recently. I mean, I know you're a hypnotherapy legend, but tell us, a little backstory if anybody, if there's anything that's changed since you were on the show last.
Yeah. Well, the last time I was here, it's been a couple years. So I was living in Bali at that time, living my island life, and it was great, but Bali is not for the faint of heart, which I
Mm.
am not in that category. So that says something. But people don't realize Bali is a volcanic, ancient island with a lot of history. Essentially, what I'm saying is it's a very powerful island of transformation, and it's very much in their culture. So Mama Bali has a way of pulling you in and spitting you out. So I
You know
kind
I'm
of
going in
got
5
that.
days.
Okay.
You know I'm going to Bali in 5 days.
I'm really setting you up for it.
I'm like, guys, we got to go somewhere else. No, no,
No,
tell
it's
us everything.
it's incredible. Have you been?
No.
Okay, I mean, it's incredible. I mean, it's perfect for a retreat because it is a place of transformation.
Mhm.
So it's very much one of those places that gives you medicine you need, not always medicine you want.
Mm. Well, we were guided to this interview because I really was like, no interviews, no interviews, and then all of a sudden I'm like, ah, this one's coming in. So there's a purpose, and I do agree. Bali for me, and I've told everyone this is a retreat that I'm doing one time and one time only. And I don't know, it's just maybe never to say I will never go back, but I do feel like it's going to be a really transformative portal for me as well. And the
Mhm.
girls that are coming, we're all looking to transform or
Yeah,
transcend something or grow and evolve. It's not just let's all you know dance around, which we are going to dance around. But I think there
of
is
course.
people are looking for some growth or some change, and like you said, sometimes you don't get what you want, you get what you need. And we'll just see. I can't wait to circle back and follow up with you on how it went. But okay, well, so tell us a little bit about, yeah, I kind of want to talk about projections because I think that's something that everyone around me also has been struggling with lately as a business owner, like getting into these crazy scenarios where you're like looking at this person going, whoa, let me hold your hand when I say this. This is a you thing. Okay. But like, you
Right.
can't really do
There's
that.
only
You're like,
one common denominator in all of your problems,
and it's you.
and it's
I
you. It's YOU.
yeah. But nobody wants to hear that. So,
No.
what did you do? What happened? Were you like, this was just our sole contract? I've got to get back to America? Tell us.
Oh, I told her exactly that.
Mm-hmm.
I said there's only one common denominator. In all of these crazy stories and situations, there's only one similar person in all of them.
You take a peek in the mirror.
I mean, don't invite me to come to your island and not expect Leo to show up. You know who you invited.
Well,
So I
and
kind of
you
laid it out a little bit.
you have been doing, I feel, this emotional regulation work leaps and bounds before it was popular, before it was trending. And now to this day, there's been some people recently that I'm like, yeah, I talk about nervous system regulation. And there's some people who are like, I don't even know what that is. And I'm like, it's just the system that's essentially running the current of our whole entire existence. And it's
Yeah.
crazy
Hmm.
how little, honestly, anyone really knows collectively. We're all just kind of piecing it together and figuring it out. But I do feel that you've always been solid ground. You've always been very regulated. And even this book, we're going to get into this book, Loving What Is. I'm really only in like the first 50 pages, so I haven't read the whole book. I'm not a master yet. You're more. But essentially, the book is about questioning our thoughts and really asking ourselves, is this a true thought? Like I could say right now, Leo's probably thinking I'm ugly right now. And then you would literally be like, okay, well, is that really a true thought? Like, or are you just making that up? There's steps to this. But by the end of the process, which is this book, there's 4 questions. And at the end, you turn it around, right? So you would say, I wish Leo would listen to me. Well, really, you're saying, I wish I would listen to myself more. Everything is kind of this mirror. So I guess I'm just inviting you in to share more about this inquiry process, just how we could apply
Yeah.
it to our life. How do you apply it to your life? Because you've been doing and living this work.
Oh my gosh, I can't even believe this is the topic of this call because Byron Katie is my favorite person of literal all time. And usually I'm the one having to manipulate people to allow me to ramble about her. I can't even believe someone sprung this on me. This is like the greatest gift anyone could ever give.
You're like, normally I'm trying
Truly.
to angle the conversation there.
Yeah. I'm like,
Listen,
did you
this
say you mentioned Byron Katie, right? You that must have been you. They're like, no, I was talking about the weather. So anyway, Byron, I will find a way to pull it back to this woman. That is my level of it's beyond obsession. It's pure infatuation. She is unironically the funniest person I I think out there. Like she has no idea, but I'm keeled over cackling at things she says because so if anyone doesn't know, she in her 40s she was like at death's door in terms of her relation to herself. She was living in a halfway house. She had 3 kids. She just hated herself in her life. Every full on depression. She wasn't even on any substances, but the halfway house was the only place that would take her and that would tolerate her. And she was so wild and so unruly to be around that they like put her in the attic away from all the other people that were detoxing off substances. She was the sober one, but they exiled her. That's that's to paint the picture. And her self-worth was so low she slept on the floor because she felt she didn't deserve to sleep in a bed.
Mm,
So
that's rock bottom.
that she's at rock bottom. And for whatever reason, I have my personal theories which we can get into. A cockroach was crawling on her leg and she noticed it and somehow had like a full Buddha level awakening. I'm talking 0 to 100 where she had no concept of time, no identity. She didn't know her children's names anymore. When they came to pick her up, they had to introduce themselves. Hi, I'm your daughter. I'm your husband. My name is because she had merged with the all, so everything was equal to her. She was one with
Mm,
everything, so there was no difference between you or her daughter because she was all of you. Like how could you be my daughter if I'm also you? How could there be 5 minutes ago when there's only now?
mm,
She was in 100% present time with no identity. I talk a lot about parts work therapy. I tell my students she's a person with no parts.
mm,
She's a partless, the part of me that likes this, part of me wants to be seen, part of me that doesn't want to be seen, part of me that wants to start a business, part of me that's scared. She doesn't have any of those.
mm.
So there's no internal dialogue. There's no ego.
So how do you think this happened? What's your theory? She had some type of, I mean, like you said, Buddha level awakening
Yeah,
to go from 0 to 100 is,
yeah, that's a lot.
hmm, that is a lot.
So essentially, for context for people, so this book is essentially over the years, she kind of found this system and process of inquiry to help people unlayer all the things that make us suffer, which she found to be the thoughts in our mind and the projections that we all live from, just from growing up our world. She's like, we all have the same stories, the same projections in every culture around the world. I want, I need, this shouldn't be happening, this should be happening, this should be different. People should like me more. My mom should call me more. My husband should be nicer. The world should be kinder. The sun should be out. Whatever the story is that causes you suffering, it's not really what's happening, but the thoughts and beliefs around it. That's her whole message. Because she found that without any thoughts, she didn't have any suffering.
Yeah, that was what was really captivating to me is essentially, I think it was like the 20th page, like pretty early on, she said suffering is optional. You know, you don't have to suffer. You can opt in or opt out. And I was
Hmm.
like, "Ooh, man, I know that some people would really hate to hear that, because they're like,
Yes,
"Oh, but it's so hard and you don't know what it's like and blah blah
right.
blah." And you're like, "Right." But you are right. If there were no thoughts, then
If you questioned your belief about what was happening, like she gives an example at some point, she doesn't have any thoughts that cause her stress. So at one point, she was walking around a city and someone pulled a gun on her and said, I have to kill you because this is like my gang initiation and we have to kill someone. You're it, lady. The gun is pulled. She's no one around. She's all alone. And she turns and looks and goes, I understand. because she didn't have the thought that this shouldn't be happening. Obviously, it should be happening because it is. So her main beliefs is if you argue with reality, you lose, but only 100% of the time.
Mm.
So if I'm arguing that the gun that he shouldn't be here, that he shouldn't be doing a gang initiation, that the he shouldn't have pulled a gun on me, I'm arguing with what is, with the reality of what is. That's why the book is Loving What Is. And what is there's a gun pulled on me.
So when she said, I understand, then what happened?
She says, I understand because for her, there's no greater or less in her world. Like the slums are just as lovable as Beverly Hills. She loves unconditionally. So for her, being shot or not shot are also equal. Being alive or dead are equal. They're the same
Mm.
because she lives in a full absorption with God, with divinity.
Well, obviously she didn't get shot though. Did it change his mind? I'm
I
like, I
think
mean,
that's the other thing about, I think, what is profound about people like this. The other thing that fascinates me about her is we have so few living masters in the Western world. We have these examples of like Yogananda, people like that from these other times and cultures and contexts. We don't have a woman in her 60s, 70s with white hair from California operating at the same level as Yogananda and
yeah.
these other great masters, but she is. And she lives
Wow.
in Ojai. Like she's right there.
That is so when you go to, well, I will say the scripting of how she asks questions and kind of calls people out. I could see what you mean about it being funny because it's like
Hmm.
she's so disconnected in a really beautiful way that it is
Hmm.
comical. She's like, "Do you really believe that? Like, do you actually think that's true?" And it's almost like the way she dissects the thought, it does make us seem a little, yeah, I don't know, like we're like a 5-year-old, running
Hmm.
on some of these thoughts and ideas
And
that
we
are,
are.
yeah, and we are.
Because that's where that thought probably formed. So yeah, the turnarounds are to kind of put a mirror to the ridiculousness of your own stories. That's the point of that turnaround process. But anyway, I think that in that moment, yeah, he turned away, he changed his mind, and she gives a lot of other examples of like that when she's confronted with incredible violence or pain or anger. She had a heart attack, smiled through the whole thing, nearly went through a windshield, put her finger in a blender next to her daughter, blood splurting anywhere. She was like, "How beautiful! There's red everywhere." Her daughter's freaking out. She's like, I could argue that I shouldn't have put my hand in the blender, but that's the reality is I did. And why, here's my hand, bloody, beautiful, all over, incredible. I love
Incredible.
what is, and what is that I'm bleeding. Like she doesn't have the story that something else should be happening. She fell in love with reality as it is.
Wow. It's like it's it's so big and profound.
Yeah.
I'm just sitting here blinking as you're saying it. I'm like,
Yes,
what would that be like? Because,
exactly.
well, it makes me think of, there was a video, it was really viral. Some of you guys may have seen it. You may have seen it, Leo, but there's like babies playing with snakes. Have you seen it as babies? And
No.
they put like non-poisonous snakes. They're not actually in any danger, but they're just all these snakes and the babies are just playing with them and they're like
Mm-hmm.
smiling and patting them and they're like, "Wee." And they're showing how much of, all of our fears have been taught to us or passed
Right,
down,
right.
in some way. So a baby sees a snake and is like, "Fun toy, pretty animal, cute, yay." There's
Mm-hmm.
just no emotional charge. And I
Yeah.
often think about that. Like anytime a fear comes up, I'm like, who taught me this or where is this actually coming from? I think that was kind of my step one. I've always said on this show, like, be the scientist of your own life, right? Everything that's coming up is just data. And I personally notice how much people struggle with fear, even just when I explain what I do. Like first thing I say like, "Oh, I'm a
Right,
medium." People immediately think of like the scariest movie they've ever seen, the
right.
scariest story someone's ever told them. And like all of those things I'm like, "Whoa, that is one, maybe was produced in Hollywood." you know,
Right.
two, a narrative created to keep us scared or fearful. And I always tell people like, I've never had a scary experience. And when you look at every experience as just data also, which is how I look. It's empowering, but I always want to give people these different ways or different lenses to not only like call back your power, because that's kind of like a cliche term too, but like to genuinely be fearless. Because if you love everything as it is, there's absolutely nothing to fear.
Yeah.
And also, when we recognize all of our fears have been taught, it's like, what is everyone so afraid of? You know?
Yeah. And this work, it's for when you're at a very particular point in your journey, because when you're still in the thick of your trauma, hearing concepts like this, which are, you also have to remember she's speaking from the greatest zoom out lens,
Mm-hmm.
very, very wide angle lens. So when you're still in the thick of the pain of your memories and past, these concepts can feel cruel. When you hear everything's love, but you've just gone through a divorce, well, that doesn't feel like love. It can feel like kind of dismissive to some of our humanity. So that's why she created this system of, she has a worksheet that's free to download, and her first book, Loving What is how to go through the worksheet, put all of your thoughts and ideas, put it to the test, put it to the system, see what happens in the process. It's a very, what I like about it is she has these big concepts that are kind of mind blowing and difficult to grasp and very ancient, honestly, but she gave a very practical application to them, which I appreciate. And the other thing, what I wanted to say earlier, is I think she's a walk in soul. I think she's one of these old Buddha soul masters.
That was the first thing that came to my mind. She's a walk in.
And I think one of these souls was on their last incarnation, and they're like, looking down at earth. Whose life can I jump into? Who's on who's on death's door down there? If I can turn their life around, then I can mission complete and not come back here.
Mm.
So that's my idea. And a walk-in is someone basically where, if you feel like you've overwhelmed yourself with putting too much on your plate for a lifetime, you can kind of trade your body with another soul. So you can go back to your higher self, source, heaven, and another soul comes in and you swap. So that's what a walk-in experience is. So that's, I think she was on that halfway house floor and she's like, I want out. And when another soul was like, I'll take it. And they traded because she was not practicing. She wasn't trying. She had no spiritual background. She wasn't reading books. She never heard of a guru, a mantra, nothing. Was not self reflective, wasn't interested in any of it. So, how does that happen?
When you said I have some theories, I immediately thought she's a walk-in. I had the same thought, or I was just reading your mind. I'm not sure, but I totally was like, I bet she was a walk-in because she might have just been, like you said, on death's door, and they're like, wait, we're gonna send help. She
Yeah,
can carry this
because
message.
Yeah, because if it were past life, if she had accumulated a lot of that spiritual work in past lives, then there would have been some sort of pull or interest towards it in some of those 40 plus years prior. Usually, like you start to move in that direction a little bit, but
Mm-hmm.
to have no interest at all and then suddenly a full awakening, that's very unusual to me. So I
Well,
can't confirm that, but that's my theory.
Well, I don't think that I'm a walk-in, but I do tell people, I was a hardcore naysayer, atheist, no spiritual background, and then had a massive life-altering event, and then was like, oh, whoopsies, I had it all wrong. I'm sorry. I'm
Sorry
back.
about that.
Sorry.
My
Oh my,
bad, my
in my,
bad.
I'm like, oh, this is awkward. I really was like, I
And
was
all of
just
a sudden, I hear a try. What is that? That meme? Do you know what I'm talking about? That
no.
audio?
All of the sudden, what?
Never mind. From Dance Moms or whatever.
Well, that pretty much sums up my life and how I came to be on this microphone.
Yeah.
And like, and then suddenly I was here. But I do have memories from my childhood and my family, so I was not a walk-in. But I do
Yeah.
know I do think it's interesting how a lot of times people who come into teaching roles do have the very stark experience or
Mm.
pivotal moment of sorts. Hers being leaps and bounds beyond mine. I would not put myself on a Buddha level, but she is. But I
Yeah.
guess what I want to know from you is,
Hmm.
since you do, hypnotherapy and you do so much work, I feel like in people's subconscious and on a deeper level, have you applied some of these teachings, or like do you see a crossover with these teachings? Like how does it, I guess, play out in real time with your clients?
Yeah, for sure. So sometimes I'll actually go through the worksheets and the process with people prior to they go into hypno because it's very much a writing process. So sometimes I'll do that to kind of grease the wheels to get the gears turning and actually apply it with people. And sometimes I just use the questions while they're in hypnotherapy in a memory. So let's say someone's 6 years old, they're watching their parents go through a really ugly divorce. And I say, "What's going through your mind?" And they say, "It's my fault. I must have done something wrong to have my parents be so angry at each other and to split this family apart. And obviously, they don't love me enough to stick together." And then I can pull out the questions. Okay, so because your parents are splitting, it must mean that this is your fault. Is that true? Can you really know that because they are fighting with each other, that you are to blame? Can you 100% know that that's true? How do you react to yourself and to others when you move through life carrying the belief that other people's pain is your responsibility or that there's something wrong with you? How do you treat yourself? How do you treat other people carrying this belief? And the final question is, who would you be without this thought, without this belief?
My question would be, for the final question that she asked, we're like turning it around. Do you, like, how would that apply in that scenario? Could you give us that example, or doesn't apply?
If I'm in hypno, I usually don't do the turnaround because they're at that point they usually kind of get it and
Resolve
they're
it.
doing, yeah. But I would say the turnaround could be, it's not my fault.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not my fault.
Yeah,
So, what are we doing to give everybody, like, in this moment? Are we bringing awareness that obviously this isn't true? A 6-year-old can't be to blame for a parent's divorce, in this situation.
right.
So, as a practitioner, are you trying to neutralize the thought? Are you trying to, shed light to the real truth? Are you trying to meet it with love and acceptance? What are we trying to do with these thoughts?
All the above. All the above. I would say mostly become curious, meet them with understanding, and find what's actually true for you. And to also allow the person to have this very interesting moment where they actually get to witness a belief being formed that they have been carrying ever since then. Because
Hmm.
so many of us just walk around going, "Oh, I don't feel worthy, I don't feel lovable, I don't feel good enough," as this kind of blanket statement. How many of us actually get to go to the moment where that gets recorded in our subconscious mind in such a powerful way that we're still living from that recorded statement, from that belief.
Hmm.
So just that alone of like, this is it. This is the moment where your mind went snapshot. I'm unworthy. I'm lovable. I'm responsible for other people's chaos and pain. The world isn't safe. Relationships aren't safe. People always go. You can go down the list of all the beliefs that are formed in moments like this and actually pause and witness it. Even that is huge for people. So it's not just this, I don't know, I just feel anxious. It's like, no, you're anxious isn't an emotion. What you're feeling is fear that once again people will leave or that there's something wrong with you because of these memories and the beliefs that formed in them. So when you can stop and pause and kind of stretch all of everything that happens in these kind of split moments, because it happens in the blink of an eye. You're not thinking about it. It's an automatic response. So when you get to put it on pause and see all of the layers of what happened, I also love bringing in the body somatic. So I'll say, what emotions are you feeling? Where do they live? How have they been sitting here? How have those affected you and your physical body and your nervous system? How has this affected your heart, your view of yourself, and maybe your soul? So you get to put it all together, the memory, the emotions, your body, the beliefs, and your spirit.
Hmm. You have such a soothing voice. I feel so calm in your presence. Yeah,
She's
because
going in.
I know I'm like, he's starting to hypnotize me. Yeah, because I love that you're a fellow dancing unicorn in the sense that you love to dance. I always see some good dance content. I would love to
A
dance
little
at a
bit.
fest. Yeah, or go
It's just,
somewhere and have a dance party.
yeah.
Um, but it is very intriguing that we just kind of tuck it away in a little part of the body. What is there a reason that we put it in certain areas of the body, or is it just random? What do you think with your experience? When people are like, oh, when I saw that, I feel I stored it here. Like, what do you think is the correlation?
I think there are general centers for sure, but I think it's intuitive based on the body, based on maybe just your personality, what's already there, what's already
Mm,
accumulated. And I can't say for sure. I think everyone kind of has a different blueprint for stuff like that. S- Um, so yeah, there are generalities, you've grief in the heart and guilt and shame in the gut and things like that. A lot of people just general stress and tension in the temples and jaw, the weight of the world on your shoulders, stuff, responsibility in
mm,
those places, traps, upper back, financial stuff, lower back. So I have found that a lot of those tend to be true, but I
mm-hmm.
haven't found why someone might put anger in their hands compared to why someone might put anger in their gut.
Right.
That I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Because that's really how I got into a lot of somatic work. It was like stored anger in the liver for me. My liver started just being like, we need help. Um, but one that have to consciously work on for me and Austin, we've actually both been doing a practice at night, which I'm like, I don't know if we're feeding off of each other or or what, but is tightness in the jaw. Whenever I have a lot going on, or I feel a lot of responsibility, shoulder and jaw for me are ones that I have to like really visualize just letting everything go out of the jaw, out of the shoulder.
Mm.
Do you have any practices or things for people that they could try? If I think jaw is a really common one, especially with females. I don't know, maybe it's for
Jaw is a big
everyone.
one.
Jaw
I
is a
know a
big
lot of
one.
people. I know a lot of people get a lot from sleeping with a night guard.
Yeah, that's what he's about to get
Because
a
it
night.
kind of keeps your jaw open and separate from the intense grinding.
Yeah. Well, I don't grind my teeth, but I have tried to mouth tape and that is not for me. Every time I wake up, the
Me
mouth tape is
neither.
like on my eyebrow. It's on Austin's like nipple. It's like I in the middle of the night, I'm like rip it off and I don't remember. I have no memory. So it just hasn't been working out for me.
I really like the videos from Human Garage on their YouTube they have a lot of fascial exercises and short 5, 15. They have a whole playlist, but I like working with the whole system because the other thing that I found is that sometimes you experience something in a certain part of your body, but it originates somewhere else.
Hmm.
So it's hard to kind of always know where the source is and where the ocean is and where the rivers kind of go to. So you might feel something in your jaw, but it might start somewhere else.
Be connected to something else. Yeah, because when you were talking about just different places in the body, that was what I was thinking. It's like it's just I think whatever to me what I was intuiting is like whatever fascia is kind of available or like a match
Hmm.
for it to store this
Hmm.
data or because it's all in the fascia. And yeah, I've been doing a lot of different like massage because what I found too is sometimes we can, and correct me if I'm wrong, because this is more of your practiced space, but sometimes I think we can heal the belief or become aware of the root. But a lot of it for me is sometimes like needing to like tweak my habits. Like sometimes it will just
Hmm.
become a habit, but it's like I feel like I've kind of resolved the root or like become aware of the problem. What
Yeah,
does that make sense?
yeah. This comes up with my clients that have chronic illness very often because
Mm,
they're so used to that pain of whatever it is. It starts to form into their identity because
mm,
it was kind of a habit. They become in the habit of being a sick person.
mm-hmm,
And so sometimes when I have big sessions with people where I know we release something huge, I say, don't go back and practice being your old self because they don't exist anymore.
mm.
Just because you're used to walking with a limp, don't create a problem where one doesn't exist anymore. Just because it
Yeah,
was familiar for you.
yeah. Oh, I've been doing a Joe Dispenza changing boxes meditation. Are you
Okay.
familiar with
I don't know
any
that
of it?
one.
Well,
I
it's
know some of his.
some of his. It's essentially where you visualize the box that you're in, where the quote problem
Mhm.
exists, and then you imagine a new box where this problem doesn't exist. And I've been doing it every morning this week, and just like you literally start to open your heart to this new box, or which is a reality where the problem no longer exists. And that's where it really is so interesting how, I guess, just addicted even myself gets to the current reality or the current narrative that we're just like expecting it to, like you said, expecting us to be sick or expecting us to have these problems when most of the time we've actually done the healing work to resolve them. That's why every once in a while I'll put something out, tell people like you got to update your vocabulary too.
Mhm.
You have to speak differently.
Yeah.
But do you think that just assuming a new identity and like acting as if, your higher self or a version of you where this problem doesn't exist, do you think that's just as powerful? I guess what I'm trying to say is like, do we, always have to learn the belief, learn the root in order to move on? Or can we just like create a reality where that problem no longer exists?
I think it depends on your kind of archetype and your past and what you're ready and available for. I think it largely depends on if you believe that it's possible. And sometimes getting to that state starts with more root work. And then you can do the more things like box. So essentially, we're talking about working from the top down or the bottom up.
Mm-hmm.
So working with childhood memories, inner child parts, all of that stuff. It's messier, it's more chaotic. So a lot of practitioners don't like to go there because it gets real wild real quick. So I also find in the community at large, it's easy to scapegoat the real, honest, difficult work of learning your past, addressing your past, processing what happened to you, looking at the beliefs and identities formed with a curious, open, loving exploration without it being just a continuation or a cycling of that again. Like a lot of talk therapy, yeah, it has positive benefits, but it's a lot of times just talking about the same thing in a loop over and over again, which can, yeah, ingrain that story deeper and deeper because you're not really getting into the deeper layers where the processing is available. Your
Mm-hmm.
vent, it makes sense intellectually into the mind of, oh, like when that happened to me when I was a kid, then I kind of went down this path and created this pattern. But just because you know how something began doesn't mean you processed how something began. Awareness
Mm-hmm.
is part of this step, but it's not the full circle that we really need to move forward. So things like the box exercise are working from the top down, or like you said, where you feel like, okay, I don't feel this big pull to healing the root. I'm going to change the patterns and the behavior in my current reality. So the difference is when you work bottom up, you need to do it less because you're getting to the root, which
Mm-hmm.
frees you up to make those habits more easily. For example, if I'm working with someone that on their food and making better food choices. You can work from the top down and create a new habit of eating healthier. And that will change your identity for sure. And you'll start to feel better and feel like a healthier person that makes healthier choices with their food because you're embodying this identity of a healthier person through your habits. So you're practicing a new version of you. So over time, it does heal something inside of you You might not ever do the root work. You might just change into a completely different version of yourself simply from changing your lifestyle and your habits. And that's beautiful if it works for you. That's going to take more consistency and it's going to take more time because you're going against the grain of obviously something that was telling you to eat and behave poorly. So you're having to learn an entirely different version of yourself. So based on the amount of resistance you get from that, it can be easy to, as Joe D says a lot, just walk as a rich person does, be this new version of you, be on
Right.
the beach, stand tall, just, leave the past behind. And for some people, it works really well if they're malleable enough and present enough to go there and they feel like that's possible for them. But for a lot of people that come from a significant amount of trauma, it's not usually that easy because the
Mm-hmm.
past doesn't let go that easily because the
Mm-hmm.
past wants to be honored and remembered and processed. So we can't just take scissors and snip all of that off and walk as this beautiful new version of yourself and let everything else go. Because the past wants to be, yeah, it wants to be acknowledged, seen, just like we all do. Those younger
Mm-hmm.
versions of ourselves. They need love just as our present self does. So, working from the bottom up, root work practices like inner child healing, hypnotherapy, I like the combination of both. When you do root work stuff and you heal more of the origins, and then you also start to change your patterns and behaviors, I think that is the sweet spot
Mm-hmm.
because you're getting the full spectrum. And I think it has the best chance of longevity in the pattern because if you don't do any of the root stuff, it's more likely to come back.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Yeah. I was going to say, I feel that at this point in my life, I have a really healthy balance and mutual respect for both. You know, I try to not to obsess too much about the past,
Hmm.
but like, okay, bring awareness, do my work, do my meditation, and then come back and be like, but also I need to update some of these habits. They're serving an old
Yeah.
version of me that I'm ready to evolve out of, right? So I
Hmm.
agree with you. I think it is kind of both, but I guess my final, well, I might have two questions left, but I'll try to keep you on time here. But what do you think is your best advice for, I guess, empowering people to not be afraid to look at the past? I feel like you'll see a lot of like trendy hypnotherapy posts on Instagram that are like all like, I don't know. I think it like makes people a little bit of like nervous or like energy or entities or like all of these things that you're like, oh, what? That sounds scary. And then it almost makes people maybe deter them from doing the work, you know? But I feel like you and I live on this space of not allowing it or just not being afraid. And I'd love for you to give your insight.
Well, the first thing is you're already living with your problem. So it's really not going to get worse from looking into it. It's already there. Whatever
True.
whatever you're sitting on, like whether it works or doesn't work, you're just back to wherever you are now, but with a
Very
little bit more
true.
awareness.
Yeah.
so, so it's not going to kill you to learn more about yourself. Yeah, people bring that up sometimes, like, do I want to know, do I want to go there, do I want to open these drawers that obviously I shut for good reason? And I say, you don't have to. Your subconscious knows when to bring certain things up at the right time. It knows you best. It's not going to overwhelm or flood your system. The question really becomes, how long do you want to walk through life on a bumpy rug? Like, everything we don't process just gets shoved under the rug, and then you wonder why you're moving through life unbalanced, like
Mm-hmm.
triggered, upset, unhappy, not feeling like you're in your path, in your service. You're not doing what you're here what you're meant to do here. So it's really, there's no better or worse. It's more, what is the life that you want to live? Do you want to live with awareness? Do you want to feel free? Do you want to know more about yourself so that you have the presence and spaciousness in your life to go full in? Or are you good where you're at? There's no up or down. It's not a judgment. It's really what's the experience of life that you want to have.
Hmm. Beautiful. My last question, kind of going into that too, is like going through life with a bumpy ride and seeing some of these people with these projections that you're like, whoa, jump scare, just to kind of tie up the Byron Katie aspect of the conversation. Do you have any examples of how, like, maybe you've used the inquiry process in your life? I always like to give people examples for like when
Hmm.
something's coming up, or maybe a client or someone, like an example of like when something's coming up, how it's actually a mirror of your own experience. Like
Yeah.
that's what we've been saying this whole time. When you turn something around, like you
Hmm.
got to turn it around and look at yourself in the mirror and say, like, this actually is a me thing.
Oh yeah, I've got so many good ones. I think the first was when the biggest aha when it really clicked for me was when I started doing worksheets on my last relationship, and I saw how much I was projecting in that relationship. I saw how much I wanted to change aspects and behaviors about him. I wanted him to be more organized, be more financially secure, do more activities, be more invested in himself. I felt like him not showing up for himself somehow reflected on me because I was his partner. I was choosing to be with him. So I saw everything he did as sort of a representation of me. So it made me want to control everything that he did.
Hmm.
So when I started to put those down on the paper, like I want him to be more financially organized, I had to turn it around. I want myself to be more financially organized because if I was, I wouldn't be worrying about his.
Well, and it's so true because I know. I mean, I think everybody in partnership does that. It's like I want them to love me this way. I want them to do this or do more of that. And it's like, do you love yourself that way? Like,
Mhm.
why do you want it so bad?
Right?
Be- because that's such a good it's such a good example. I'm definitely gonna I gotta just print off a bunch of these worksheets and
Yeah, go to town.
just get curious with past people in my life of like,
Hmm.
because ultimately, what is the goal for us to just, I guess, love them how they
Love
are,
what is. Yeah,
love
I
what
mean,
is.
she always says you have the partner, the version of your partner in your head, and then there's the reality of the one in front of you. When
Mm-hmm.
they don't match, you suffer only because they're not living as the idea you have of them. You see their potential, where they could go, what they should be doing, how they could use their skills, their time, their energy, their money, how they should be with their parents or their kids. You see a version of them that you want to be dating as your partner. But then if you blink a few times, look at the one you've actually got. How many times are we caught in the story of them, the fantasy, or even a past version of them, not allowing them to be their most current self? Oh, well, he used to drink, he used to smoke, he used to cheat. Well, is that who they are now? Is that the reality of who they are? Or are you bringing the beliefs about them from their past, dragging it in and creating suffering that doesn't need to exist here?
Mm. Why is that? Are we just addicted to the drama
We
collectively?
all want we all want safety, and we think that if we're on high alert, on high guard, always scanning for what could be wrong, we think we will be safer because we think that our safety relies in other people.
Mm-hmm.
I must not be responsible for my own wealth, finances, comfort, safety, joy. It must be you. So that must mean I have to then manipulate and control things in order for me to receive my own safety.
It's it's so true because it is. I mean, well, it's just also the definition of ego, really, but it's also in some ways we can, I guess, be gentle with ourselves. And like, that's what I try to tell myself. I'm like, listen, I know you think that you need that or you want that, and that it's going to keep me safe in some way. But a lot of the things that we're so worried about, like, you saying you didn't want to be um, judged, right, by or being associated with this person or the representation of them in some way, shape, or form. but that narrative may never like actually come to fruition. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like no one's ever
Sure.
really going to think that. The only person that's judging them in that moment is us. Like we're creating the judgment.
And even if that judgment is there, then that's another belief to question. So people are not allowed to judge me. Is that true? What's the reality of it? People judge. I can argue with reality and suffer, or I can love what is. People are judging me. I love that they are making a judgment for themselves because either way, it's a projection about them.
Yeah. It's never even about you, which is even
It's
the
not about
craziest
us.
part. It's never about us, which everyone always says, like, it's really a them thing. And it's like, no, it like literally the laws of the universe. It's actually just
Yeah,
them fighting with their own
right,
reality. That's just somehow we're bringing it out, but it's really them.
right.
It's actually, which is why I've always been telling everyone the key to life genuinely is how much can you just relax? Can you literally relax in the face of every situation? How much can you soften? How
Yeah,
much can you just literally hop in the stream, flip on your back and float downstream? I mean, that is
yeah,
quite literally it. We are the ones that really thrash and fight, try to swim back upstream, try to go here, there, and create all these problems when it's like you actually aren't here to manipulate and change everyone around you.
yeah.
And even the judgment thing, that's something that I think will forever be a practice, just being in the public space, just
Mm-hmm.
being I think every 6 months I go through this massive level of being like more unbothered or like, oh my gosh, I can't even believe that some scenario upset me or whatever. But you really do just have to. I've gotten to the point now where I'm like, I just don't even look. I don't read. I just don't even engage with it because I'm like, it's none of my business.
Right.
It's like I used to be like, oh, well, I could do this better or differently or whatever. And then I'm like, oh, it's not even about me. It's not even my business. I don't even need to read it. I don't even need to know because
Yeah,
it just is. I
yeah.
don't know. You can't change it. You can't control it. And yeah, that was a really good
That's her
inquiry.
other tenet, actually. Her other main teaching is there's my business, your business, and God's business. Anytime I'm out of my own, I suffer.
Mm,
So, like, when we say, oh, that person shouldn't have died, well, that's God's business and their business. I can argue with that, but that's not really my business when someone should die or not. So I should be God and I should decide when someone's time has come too soon. That's not my business.
mm-mm.
Or people's opinions, like you said, judgments, not really my business. If I'm just in my business, that's when I don't suffer. Like in my example of my ex, I was always in his business. So, if I'm always in his world running his life, who's running mine?
Mhm.
Who's
Mhm.
who's in my life if I'm always trying to control everything he's doing?
Yeah. Oh, it's so true. It's taken me a long time to figure that out, but I really am. Like I say that all the time. I am minding my own damn business. I am planting my herbs in my herb garden. I am
Mhm.
swimming in the pool, and I am minding my own business. Even to
Yeah,
the point where people are like, "Oh, have you heard about this?" I'm like, I just like I don't know how to say this. My other catchphrase is respectfully, I don't care. Like I mean this with all the love in my heart. I don't care. Whenever people were like, oh, well, I'm into this or I feel this way. I'm religious. Now I'm spiritual. Da, da, da. I'm like, I don't care. You don't have to explain yourself to me.
right,
Like, I don't need
right.
to be involved in anyone else's business. Genuinely, like, I always say, like, I'm not a sleuth. I'm not curious. Like, I don't need to, like, look into things and
We
figure
don't
it
need to
out.
know.
I don't need to know.
We don't
I
need to
don't
know.
I really don't. Like I always say, I'm like, nobody can reach me because like I will not like get curious. I will not read anything that's about other people. Like I'm just like, I don't need to know. So I love that that's her saying it's like everybody it just really is like so empowering to stay and like literally calling your power back to stay in your
Yeah.
business because when you're in everyone else's business all the time, it's like you said, who's driving your car?
hmm Yeah, and people, I mean, these principles are they sound nice and like the work is extremely simple. Her process is extremely simple, but so hard to actually apply it. Like when I work with people going through a big breakup, let's say, someone breaks up with you. Well, whose business is it who this person loves? So they're not allowed to leave you. Well, whose business is it if they leave you? It's his. If
Mm.
he's leaving you, that's his business to if he leaves you for someone else, that's his business.
And you just got to let it, you just got to keep minding your own business then. I know it is.
Whose business is it who people love?
It is. I mean, really, it's theirs. It's so,
You
you're
might
right.
not
It
like
is.
it, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not your business.
You can't force it either. No, you're right. It is. It's such a profound but extremely simple. Like we said, she is like just this very extremely enlightened version where I could see where it
Mhm.
would trigger people or sound, maybe insensitive in some way. But for
Right.
me, it's been very empowering of like, oh my gosh. Like, I mean, I think at the beginning of any relationship, like the longer that I've been with Austin, and especially once we got married, there were so many things where I look back where I was like, wanting him to do all these things like, oh, well, if you would meditate more, this would help, and like this, and like maybe if you do this, like, and I realized I was like, he's fine. Like, why
Right.
am I trying
He's
to get in his
chilling.
business? And
Right.
like, one day he literally was like, we're not the same person though. And I
Right.
was like, it was like the lights turned on. I was like, oh yeah, like that works for me. I know I was trying to come from a
Mhm.
loving place, like this really helps me or this really works for me. And then I thought, I don't want to be married to me. Like, I like that you're a
Right.
different person. There's a
Right.
little diversity in our life. There's a little spice in our life. I was like, oh my God, ew, I'm so sorry. And now literally, like, even when he's doing something that I'm like, that's probably not really going to play out the way he thinks it's going to play out, I let him do it. I do.
Yeah.
Unless he comes to me and be like, do you really think I should do this? Or like, do you have any
Right.
insight? Maybe. But
Right.
I totally am like hands off the wheel. I just let, I have a stepson too. I let all the men in the house do. I mean,
Yeah.
I keep them safe, but then from there, like
Mhm.
whatever they want to do that I'm like, I don't know if I would do that. I let them do it anyways because I'm
Yeah.
like, it
Who are
is.
we to remove challenge from people's life if that's what they need to learn something? If I
Right.
take if I detour you from something you're doing that you really need to do to learn something, now I have just interjected in someone's divine plan
Mm.
because I want something else to change or I want it my way. It's not about me. If you want to do this thing, if you think this is what you need to do, go for it. If you want my opinion, I'll share. But otherwise, it's not my business.
And that's what Leo and I are going to get tattooed on our bodies after this show.
Not
It's not
our
my
business.
business.
Not my business. And
It's
I've
not.
got one final good example
Tell
that I
me.
think a lot of people, you know, it's like you said, it's good to have tangible examples. So a
Yeah.
few years ago, my dad got diagnosed with cancer, and I went through this process. And I went, okay, so the beliefs that came to my mind were my dad is too young to have cancer. He shouldn't have cancer. He's a good person. He doesn't deserve this. He shouldn't have cancer. So that's the belief. So my dad shouldn't have cancer. Is that true? I mean, I don't want him to. I don't like it. I don't enjoy it. Can I 100% know that my dad shouldn't have cancer? I have no idea. I can't possibly know who should or shouldn't have certain things. I don't know what he did his whole life. I don't know everything he ate, drank, all the chemicals, where he grew up, what was in the earth, the air, the water. I don't know what's in all of our ancestry. I don't know what he did in his past lives. I don't know what his soul blueprint is. I can't possibly know what someone should or shouldn't be experiencing. So, the third question is, how do I treat myself and him when I hold the thought, oh my God, my dad shouldn't have cancer? Well, I recoil, I go inward, I become tense, and I become emotional and sad, and I pull away. So that's how I respond when I have that thought, oh my God, he shouldn't have cancer. And how do I treat him? Probably um, more baby-like than he wants to be treated. Then you go above and beyond, and you kind of easy to overdo it, overstep, overheal, or make people feel like there's something wrong with them because they're experiencing something like this. Or isolate because I'm scared to talk about it or bring it up. You know, it can go either one of those ways, overheal or isolate. And the fourth question is, who would I be without the thought that my dad shouldn't have cancer? If I'm there in the room with him, he's having let's say he's going to an appointment, and I'm sitting there pissed, emotional, sad, going, this shouldn't be happening. He's too young. He doesn't deserve this. Without those thoughts, who would I be? I would be a loving son there with my dad, the thing he actually needs instead
Mm.
of all of this.
Mm-hmm.
Who would I be without the thoughts? I'd be present with someone going through cancer without the story of cancer.
Mm-hmm.
I
Without
would
your
just
own.
be.
Yeah, you would just, I was going to say, you would just be present, which is what he would want, right?
Exactly. Does my dad want me there freaking out, annoyed, bothered, upset, or does he want his son there present with him in the room?
It's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Also, how is your dad?
Good.
He's
Making
good.
progress.
Good.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a really, yeah, that's a beautiful example. Thank you for sharing that with us because there are these things, whenever I share stuff on health, and I always, will say like, these are certain things that helped me. And then people will get mad at me like, well, would that have brought my grandma back? Or, these situations where I'm like,
So yeah.
oh, you took that maybe a little out of context, but it is true. Like, it's because we're mad. We don't want the people we love to be hurting, or we don't want to see them go, or, there's something that we're like gripping onto.
Yeah.
And when you can strip it all back, what can we actually do for them or ourselves if we are sick or something horrible? It's like being present, because when we're present, we can actually connect with love. Everything else is taking us out. It's putting us in fear. It's putting us in sadness and grief. That's what anxiety and depression connect to. It's like in the present moment, so many of our problems really do just all fall away. It's actually fascinating. I've been really sitting with that lately, of just being like, in the present moment, there is actually nothing happening.
Yeah.
There's no threat. We're creating it in the
Mm-hmm.
future, looking at the past, in the present
Mm-hmm.
moment. My dad is here, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly to all of that. I like Byron Katie puts things, I forget how she says it, like in, I forget the terminology, but very impersonal. So the answer to the last question, she would probably say, I'm a son sitting in the room with his father going to an appointment. Who would I be without my story? I'd be me sitting in this chair breathing.
Mm.
Like I'd be a guy in room with dad. Like that is all that's the only thing happening, actually. Everything else is a story.
Yeah. We're basically human beings. Our computer brains are just chronic storytellers. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just, are we going to opt-in and allow ourselves to be suffering our whole life? Or
Yeah.
are we going to, at some point, just turn it around and question the story? Question, is this story running my life? Is it helping my life or ruining my life or supporting my life? Just like, what is the story even?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, anybody here, like we said, this is profound but simple work. It's just 4 questions. That's all it is. This
Mm-hmm.
book, Loving What Is by Byron Katie, that has been our whole premise of our conversation. And Leo, thank you for bringing it into my reality, because it has immensely allowed me to release control around just everything, my relationship, how I run my household, all the things. And I'm like, that's amazing. Why am I getting mad at anybody? That only person to blame right now is actually me. And it's hard
Mm-hmm.
to take ownership, but I'm doing it.
They shouldn't be playing video games. Can you really know that that's true?
Literally.
I
I'm
work
like,
with that one so much with moms.
they shouldn't be playing video games. You're like,
Like, I'm
let's
pretty sure
see.
I know.
Well, okay, tell everybody where they can find you, any parting words, thoughts, what's coming up, what are you doing? Anything you want to let us know? All the things.
Yeah, I've got hypno trainings coming this fall. That's my most exciting thing coming up. So
Ooh.
I still take clients one-on-one for private hypnotherapy. I have a free group hypno last Thursday of every month. That's a great place to start. If you want to dip your toe in, there's no participation. You show up, I talk about a theme, you just listen and follow along. You can even have camera off. I know people are a little nervous the first times. It's go at your own pace, your own adventure. But the group hypnos are great. And then in fall, if you've ever been curious about hypno, you want to learn anything about it, I've got 2 trainings coming up in the fall. One is just to learn the hypno side of it, which we call hypnotic inductions. That is the process of bringing someone into trance. From there, you can do a lot of things, but I like to have a training just about that before you get to the emotions and the inner child healing and all the
Mhm.
messy stuff. Some people just want the practice with the, okay, take a breath and let your awareness move deeply inside of you. The hypnotic part, learning body language, reading subtle cues, mirroring, learning hypnotic words and vocabulary, the history, all that stuff. So that's in September. I call it Hypno Essentials. And then for people that are really ready to dive in, go all the way and learn inner child healing, parts work, soul fragmentation, past life regression,
Mm.
spirit removals, psychic surgery, working with guides, ancestors, angels, galactic beings. That training is November, and that's a full on 5 month mentorship, big kahuna. So,
Wow. That sounds exhilarating.
yeah. So pick your poison.
Yeah, choose your journey. I like that. Pick your adventure. Oh my
Yes.
gosh. Wow. Well, you are just a beautiful angel and your voice is so healing and you have the most perfect tonality to be a hypnotherapist. I think you hypnotized me at one point in the middle of this
Practice.
conversation.
You went off.
I'm like,
You went somewhere else.
oh, well, I just love and adore you. You guys, please find him, connect with him. Great follow. I always love your content. And I'll see you next week. Love you,
Thanks
Leo.
for having me. Love you.
Mwah. As always, I just wanted to say thank you so much for tuning in. If you feel so called or if it feels aligned, I would love for you to leave me a review here. I always love reading your beautiful thoughts and messages. And also, you can find me at Anna Grace Newell on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And I will link all of my courses, AG University course curriculum in the show notes, along with if you're interested in booking an Akashic Records reading with me. My scheduling link goes out in my newsletter. It goes out once a month and it's completely free. I would love to have you there. As always, I'm a proud professor and you get an A+ for making it all the way through the end. Love you.